Good evening and welcome back to another special live edition of Capitol Tonight here from Cleveland, Ohio, at the 2016 Republican National Convention. All the delegates are getting ready on the floor, and all of our elected officials are ready as well. And joining us now is Congressman Robert Pittenger, Republican, obviously, from the 9th District, North Carolina, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg area. Good to see you, sir.
Tim, great to be with you. I love your tie.
Well, thank you very much. You got a nice tie there. It's very Republican of you as well, right?
It's the elephant in the room.
It's the elephant in the room. I think there's a lot of elephants in the rooms these days. But, you know, this week seems to be a lot about unification. But we did hear boos out there when they were trying to pass the rules about, you know, the Never Trump folks. I mean, what do you think about that role as sort of as we head through this week?
This is my 6th convention. I've never been at a convention that everybody was unanimous at the very beginning. This is part of our democracy. And so this is nothing unusual. It was all good.
You don't think it is? I've been to 4 of them myself, and I'm not so sure I'm this much of a ruckus.
Since 1976 in Kansas City, down the line, I've been to all these conventions, and there are always people who have favorites, and they're emotionally attached to them, and they want to fight for them and show and prove their loyalty.
You don't think, though, that there's work for Donald Trump to do left with some Republicans to bring them on board?
I think there's work for Hillary Clinton to do to prove that she can be a president of national security. That's the issue in this campaign. The issue in this campaign is we have never been threatened as we are today by nation states and by terrorist groups who threaten our own survival. And that's what's at stake. We've seen it throughout the Middle East. We're seeing it, frankly, in our own country. I travel abroad, meeting with heads of state in many countries, and they are very frustrated over the lack of leadership by President Obama and Secretary Clinton, and the lack of a decisive role of what they would do to defeat ISIS. They don't have a plan. We need a plan. We need a president who's committed to our national security, who will be out there and assertive and stating our national interests and what we need to do.
So what do you think that plan would be under a Donald Trump administration that Congress could agree with?
Yeah. I think we would sit down with these leaders, with these heads of state, and we would come together with a plan to take out Assad in Syria, to work with these Gulf state partners. You know, none of them wanted the Iran agreement. One of them said to me, Congressman, it's like if we went to Moscow and negotiated a treaty with Ukraine without ever talking to Europe. You never talked to us. They understand what needs to be done. Ronald Reagan defeated the Soviet Union. He put sustained economic pressure on them, he put military pressure on them, and they collapsed without firing a shot. The world has lacked that moral clarity, that leadership that I believe Donald Trump is going to give.
Do you think words would be enough and assertiveness is enough, or do you think more military action would be part of that?
I think you need a clear-cut strategy. I think you don't say what you're going to do, what you're not going to do, but you sit down with the leaders in the world. Frankly, we lost and we're losing, frankly, what we'd gained in Iraq, and didn't have to lose it. He unilaterally pulled out all of our troops. We didn't even leave our intelligence folks in there. We have not had a plan to take out Assad and to defeat ISIS. That can be done. We shouldn't give up. But it is morphing. They're not winning this war. They are morphing to other countries. And we have to be clear on that. That's why we need a strong leader. And thank God, Mr. Trump, with all his faults, is a strong leader. And he has a partner, a vice president, Mr. Pence, who is a strong leader. And they understand the threats facing this country.
You know, it's funny, though, you said with all his faults. I hear that a lot this week. I've never heard that about a presidential candidate at a convention like this. Why do you think that's the case?
That's okay. You know, he rubs people. He's out there. He's out of the box.
That doesn't make you nervous, though, when he's talking to Assad and some of these other folks around the world? Do you think that's a good thing?
If you hear sound bites, yeah, it always makes you nervous. But when he sits down and talks, when he came to our conference, our Republican conference, he walked in the room out of respect. We stood and clapped for him. When he got through, nearly an hour later, we all stood and clapped because he was embracing us. He was embracing our reforms. He was embracing what we need to do to reform the tax policy and the health care policy and to make this country secure.
Was that a turning point, do you think, when he came and met with Congress?
I think it was. I think it was important for him and and listen to somebody and not just listen to sound bites here and there.
Have you had a chance to be with him one-on-one at all, or in a small group?
A couple of years ago I got to know him then.
So is he different than what we see on television?
Oh, sure. He's a very warm, personable guy. He understands issues. He's clear to the cut. He doesn't have any fray involved, He doesn't dance around the issues, and that frustrates people because they want somebody more diplomatic. But he cuts to the quick. But you've got to hear the whole context, I think, what he was trying to do. The thing that's good, Tim, he's inviting in smart people. He invited Henry Kissinger, invited Secretary James Baker to advise him on foreign policy issues. He's bringing economic advisors. So I think he's going to listen to smart people. I'm a businessman. Business people like to succeed. And Donald Trump, I believe, is a businessman who wants to succeed. And he's going to bring in some smart folks, like he's done in his own business, to say, what do we need to do to fix this problem?
There were members of Congress, and frankly, there are some that were nervous. Do you think bringing Governor Pence was sort of a bridge to some of those folks, in particular with Congress? I mean, do you think Congress is more likely to work with him if he wins, or will have better relations because of someone like Mike Pence who has been in Congress?
Oh, sure. I think that was natural. I think Governor Pence is absolutely the perfect person for him. Policy-wise, he's a strong conservative. He knows what needs to be done in this country to fix this country. But also, he's been in Congress. He knows process. He knows how to get things done in process. He won't get lost in the quagmire. He'll help President Trump over the landmines and how to get things done and who to get on board, how to process something. You can have a good idea, but if you can't process it, it doesn't make any difference. Pence knows how to process.
Do you still like coming to these conventions? And if you do, why do you like them so much?
Well, I think it's Americana. There's so much fanfare, and there's a lot of fun and parties. But it's a time where we come together and we can convey our vision and our message, what we really want to accomplish. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what's going to come out of it. Through the sessions each evening, I think America is going to hear, what are these Republicans really about? What is Donald Trump really about? And it's more than Donald Trump. These are ideas. This is not a campaign based on personalities. This is a campaign on changing this country. We have an economy of 1.5% economic growth. There's 20 million people who are unemployed or underemployed. This is awful. We can do better. We are burdened with regulations. We're burdened with a tax policy that is not fair to anybody. And Donald Trump will come in and fix that. But so this is about ideas. And the thing that I like about him, he came in, he embraced Paul Ryan when he walked in the room. He embraced us. He said, I need to work with you all. I need to work with you on changing this country. And I think that was really kudos off to him, because he respected the people he was in the room with when he came to meet with us.
So does it disappoint you then that none of the Bush family is here, no Mitt Romney, no John McCain? Does that disappoint you?
I'd love to have them here, and I've conveyed my wishes to some of those, and hope that they'll reconsider. I think it would be important because we cannot have Hillary Clinton as President of the United States. Can you imagine the impact if we continue on the economic policies we're on now, the regulatory burden, the unfair tax burden, the health care, what has been done in this country that is hurting so many people because of a strong centralized government, and where we are? She's part of this foreign policy, the inept, feckless foreign policy. A no policy, a no strategy foreign policy that's left America totally vulnerable. And so, yes, I think the issue is going to be defeating Hillary Clinton, and I think we'll be about that.
Do you think, though, that it seems to me more than other years, there's a lot of people that are going to be voting not Clinton rather than for Trump. Do you think there's an element to that as well?
I think there's always people who vote against. You vote for somebody, but you also vote against somebody else. But we don't want socialism. She's moved way to the left. This woman is, if she was ever just center or close to center, I don't think she ever was, but she's way to the left now. She's embraced Bernie. I mean, she's burning with pantsuits on. I mean, that's what Hillary is today. She's had to, because their party is so far to the left.
But some people would argue that's why Donald Trump picked Governor Pence, because Governor Pence is more to the right and Republicans have moved to the right.
I think he's trying to say to the American people, this is what I believe in. If you had any confusion what I believe in, here's the guy that I believe in. And I want him as my number 2 guy who could, if God forbid he's not president, he would step in. And Mike Pence is qualified to do that.
Well, it's going to be an interesting week, sir. Thank you a little bit for your time. Enjoy your week, sir, and thank you for joining us.
You do a great job. Good
Thank you.
with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. We got to take a short break. When we return a little earlier today, I had the chance to talk with Congressman Darrell Issa from California. We'll hear that conversation when we return live from Cleveland, Ohio.